This is a code walkthrough for the example file LoopingForDayNumbers2.java. This is an example I dreamed up, and it's kind of a nice one because it combines a number of things: for looping, the switch statement, if-else selection, and even nested looping and selection. It's also centered around the CS12 date class, so it also shows some application of using that class in a program. It will probably be a little easier to demonstrate this once we've seen what it does. So let's go ahead and start by compiling the file, and let's free run it once and show what the output looks like. So what we see here is that we want to print out all of the days of the year in numbered order by month. So notice that we have these little gaps between, say, January and February, between February and March, and so forth and so on. So for example, February 28th in a non-leap year is the 59th day of the month, followed by the 60th day of the year, March 1st. Now notice that we're also going to flag some special days. For example, New Year's Day, my daughter's birthday, the middle of the year, my birthday, start of the semester, so forth and so on. So if we scroll up and take a look at this and think about how we might implement this, it may eventually occur to us that this is involving two nested for loops. We have an outer for loop which loops over the 12 months of the year, and then in an inner for loop we loop for each month over the days of that month. The only problem is we don't know ahead of time how many days will be in each month, so we have to figure that out somehow, and for that we'll use a switch statement. Finally, once we have the day number and the date printed out, and of course these come from capabilities of the CS12 class, we might also use some selection logic to flag certain dates if they're equal to certain red letter days that we've set aside for special handling. So let's give ourselves a little more room in the code window and start looking at how this is implemented. And we'll go ahead and set a breakpoint on main as we usually do, and let's talk our way through this a little bit. Here we've got the usual initialization of variables and objects at the head of our file as per good practice. We've got a CS12 date that we're going to use to determine whether something is a leap year. We've got another date for the end of the year, and then from that we're going to turn around and get the date number and figure out how many days there are in the year, and this will always work for leap years or non-leap years. This value will be either 365 or 366. Then we've got several dedicated dates that we want to check for, and here we've got about 8 of them, and we've initialized them with the month-day form of the constructor. Then if we go down here a little bit more, we'll see that we enter the outer for loop, and here we're simply looping over the 12 months of the year. So month is our index variable, and for any given month the first thing we need to do is figure out how many days there are in this month. Well, there are only 12 possibilities and 3 different possibilities for the number of days in a month. Some of the months have 31 days, January, March, May, etc. 4 months have 30 days, and February has either 28 or 29 days. The only difficulty there is that we need to figure out whether it's a leap year or non-leap year. In retrospect, I probably should have made that is leap year capability public in CS12 date. So for now we'll just use sort of a kludge. We'll check what the date number is for March 1st. In a non-leap year, March 1st is the 60th day of the year, so there are 28 days in that non-leap year February. Otherwise, if it's 61, then it's a leap year, and there are 29 days in that February. And notice that we're using the conditional statement here to implement that. So then once we know how many days there are in that month, the max days month, we can then perform an inner loop with a different index variable day, and we loop from 1 to max days month. And so we've got this nested for loop on the inside that's coupled to the outer for loop, or rather it depends on the outcome of this switch statement, and then we loop over the days of that month. We establish a CS12 date for that month-day combination. We get its date number, we print it out, so that would be these two fields right here. And then after that, we check and see if the day is any one of the special days. And if it is equal to one of those days, we also append some special designation to it, such as we're doing right here for my daughter's birthday. Or in the case of the mid-year point, if the date number is equal to the middle of the year as per this calculation involving the days in the year, we print out that it's the mid-year point. So let's back up here a little bit and let's single step our way through this for one pass. Obviously we can't do an entire year like this, but just to show what this looks like. So we're setting up a couple of things. There's a CS12 date for determining if it's a leap year, and now we've got a constant for the number of days in the year. And then we establish these special dates, and we begin with this inner, or rather outer, for loop. Okay, so here we are, poised before the first pass through this program for January 1st. So we're going to enter this outer for loop. So the month is going to be equal to 1. We're going to switch on the month, which is going to tell us that January has 31 days. And then we're done with our switch statement. And now we can enter the inner for loop and loop over the days on the index variable day. So we're going to loop from 1 to 31, and we're going to set up a new CS12 date for 1/1 of the current year. We're going to get the date number, which of course is going to be 1, and then we'll put out this first printout. And then we're going to check and see if there's anything special about that date. Is this date the midpoint of the year? Well, clearly that's not going to be the case, but it is New Year's Day. So the date is going to be equal to the New Year's Day date that we set up. Back here. So this will be true, and we'll append to the end of this print the New Year's Day. And notice that this is a big if-else-if statement. So if one of these dates is satisfied, we're not going to check all these other ones, and we're done. And we're going to print a blank line and kick it down to the next line, and then we're going to go back to the top of this inner for loop for January 2nd. So now we're at January 2nd. We set up another CS12 date, get its date number, and we print out that it's the second day, January 2nd, and then we're going to go through and check all these red letter days again. Well, it's not going to be the midpoint of the year. We know it's not New Year's Day. It's not Christmas. It's not my birthday. It's not my wife's birthday. It's not my son's birthday, my daughter's birthday. It's not the first day of the semester, not the day of the end of the semester. So we'll just print a blank line, and we'll go back around again for the third day, and so forth and so on. And so again, we're going to loop over the 31 days of January, and then once we're done with that, we'll come back to the outer for loop. We'll increment the month to 2, and then we'll loop over the 28 days of February once we've figured out that February does in fact have 21 days this year, and then we'll repeat the process for all the 28 days rather of February. So I'm going to end this and clear it and run it one more time, and hopefully that will give you an idea of how this was implemented. The only other thing I'd like to point out is that notice that we have these nice little gaps between each of the months, between January or July and August rather, and that is coming from right here. Once we finish the inner loop for all the days, we print a blank line, so that's this blank line here, before we go back and loop over the next month. Okay, so that's how this file works, combining nested for loops, switch, and if-else-if selection together with CS12 dates.